Greetings brothers and sisters, and today I have a juicy one for you. More law indications that Oceania's big bad, or good, depending on your perspective, does not exist, and I believe this is indicated by arguably the most famous quote of all. So just to clarify that the denial here is in the spirit of Winston's criteria in chapter 2 of part 3. Big Brother is not a flesh and blood man, or at least the persona presented by the party is not existent as a flesh and blood man. BB as an idea and the embodiment of the party of course exists. Additionally, I won't be rehashing older points from my earlier video on the subject, as you can view those there. With that being said, I have a main and a minor point of support for BB's non-existence, and we shall take the minor one first. At the very beginning of the novel, Winston sees the large poster of BB and describes it as, quote, simply an enormous face, more than a metre wide, the face of a man of about 45, with a heavy black moustache and ruggedly handsome features. The key here is in the age estimate. Now I am assuming a couple of things here. Firstly, that the party's depiction of BB, existent or not, is accurate to begin with. It's no secret that dictators may wish to cultivate a more airbrushed public image of themselves to their subjects. Public images of our world's BB equivalent, Stalin for example, never showed his pockmarks. So given allowances for creative touches, perhaps posters are generally accurate in terms of facial structure at least, but could be generous in terms of age depiction. By how much is anybody's guess, though anything more than 10 to 15 years is pushing credulity a bit. Is it possible BB has posters depicting him as a middle-aged man when he is in fact a man of 60, 70 or even more? Well, admittedly, yes. Another connected assumption is that Winston's own estimation of the age is broadly accurate too. There is some fallibility on this score, with O'Brien at least. Winston had originally estimated O'Brien as younger than the 48 to 50 he reckons him in their time together in Mini-Love. We are never given any definitive age for O'Brien, though even Winston can't be that far wrong. In terms of his estimation of BB in the poster then, we can probably go 5 years either way, meaning BB is depicted as a man in his 40s. Taking the middle as Winston does, we can calculate that if BB was a real man, that he was born in about 1939. If about Winston's age, then 1944 or 45. And if on the other side, then we have a maximum approximate date of about 1934 or 1935. Hopefully you've guessed where I'm going with this. One thing Winston is reasonably sure of is that he had not heard of BB before Jones, Aronson and Rutherford, and the term Ingsoc itself is absent from his memory before 1960. Indeed, he thinks he knew the names of the Purge trio years before BB. In Part 1, Chapter 3, Winston believes he had first heard of BB in the 60s. Yet, in the party histories, BB figures heavily. He is the leader and guardian of the party in revolution from its earliest days, whenever they were. Interestingly, even the party's own statistics help to contradict this point. If you've watched my previous video on when the party came to power, we can perhaps be sure that they were in power by 1958 at least, if we work our way back from the 3-year plans mentioned. 1958 is obviously not the 60s. Yet you would think that even the misty memory of Winston would be equal to the task of recalling the leader of the revolution and party. This is odd for such a charismatic and importantly existent flesh and blood man, don't you think? The party's proverbial nose only lengthens when we consider that Winston adds that the party had BB very much alive and present, way back into the 1940s and even the 1930s. Which of course is just plain impossible, even if we allow Winston to be out by 10 to 15 years on his 45 age estimate of the poster. Even if BB was 60 in 1984, that would mean BB was active from an age range of 6 to 16 years old. Are we to believe then that BB was guiding and leading the party as a teenager in the late 1930s. Even by the party's own propaganda then, BB is an icon of blatant contradiction, and while party members may be forced to swallow such obvious inconsistencies through doublethink, we as readers don't have to. Moving on, what of the famous quote and its bearing on this controversy then? Well, you hear it as a common sign-off of these very videos, and even people who have never read a word of the novel will know it. Big Brother is watching you. This last major point will be a little weird to think about, but still loosely based on the lore, as we do have support for what follows there. Firstly, logically, if we take these words literally, then the implication is that BB watches you and everyone. Yet no one man, of course, can physically watch all party members at all times. To the party, especially the inner party, however, this is not necessarily a problem. O'Brien sincerely explains to us and Winston later in the novel, both directly and indirectly through Goldstein's book, that BB is the embodiment of the party, and hence, in this amorphous and symbolic sense, BB indeed does watch you and every party member. As we know, telescreens are ubiquitous in homes, workplaces, public spaces, and so at any given time, a party member can reasonably assume that they are being watched. Even if telescreen watchers or operatives are not all party members, what we can certainly say is that even trained proles still work on behalf of the party. Now, the last point is very arguable, and I personally veer towards telescreens being automated mostly, or staffed exclusively by dedicated party members. However, I'm not immovably wedded to the idea. Regardless of this issue, the point is that in either case, all party members can be said to be watched by the party, and literally then, in keeping with party ideology, BB himself watches everyone. This means, of course, that the party's slogan, Big Brother is watching you, only really makes sense when assuming BB exists as the symbolic face and embodiment of the party. Thinking of him as a flesh and blood man perhaps could still work in conjunction with this, but not on its own, and I doubt this too anyway, given our previous point on the nonsensical party history. Another plank of support to consider is that the party slogans are known in the lore to have deeper meanings. O'Brien, for example, explains to Winston that the other slogan, "Freedom is slavery," is reversible, that slavery is freedom, as if the individual can eradicate themselves, can become the party, then their slavery becomes a freedom in the sense of their becoming immortal, omnipotent, and all-knowing too, as the party itself is all these things. Goldstein's book also explains that the slogan "War is Peace" actually takes on a literal meaning, given that the perpetual war between the three superstates does indeed maintain the societal structure of each, and hence the power of all their inner parties. Oligarchical collectivism is maintained by the controlled and endless war, hence this peace of a kind is achieved paradoxically enough through endless war. By the same token, I think that the slogan "Big Brother is watching you" is strong evidence alone that BB was never a real man, but an idea. That a face and perhaps footage of that face is used is, of course, true enough. However, using the face and footage of an anonymous man is hardly the same as BB really existing as BB. This slogan then indicates that BB is the Uncle Sam-like figurehead and embodiment of the party, but nothing more, with the slogan obviously unable to be taken literally for reasons we have already considered. So that was my theory on why perhaps the most famous slogan indicates BB's non-existence. Coupled with the obvious propaganda and historical contradictions, this all leads me to the conclusion that BB does not exist, or more precisely, he does not exist as a flesh and blood man in the sense Winston asks. But what do you all think? Does the slogan only make sense if BB is taken as merely symbolic? Do the contradictions in the first part of the video add to the mass of lore evidence of BB's non-existence? Write your thoughts and objections in the comments section, and remember, Big Brother is watching you. Or is he?